Mitchell, the thing is that if I just read the words without it being so associated with the name, that sounds like something Putin would say. I actually shut off the energy. That is a threat. Tariff is a tool, but saying that you would cut off energy to an ally in which you share a border, that sounds like a threat. That's an escalation. What say you?
Well, I think it's ridiculous, dangerous rhetoric. I mean, back when deregulation happened in the U.S. electricity markets, any supplier was required, when you flick a switch, to supply power unless you had a force majeure, which is an act of God. Now, he's claiming that he's going to shut off the power. Okay, that's quite the threat, because think about this. Think about the hospitals that would get cut off, or the people that are on a dialysis machine or medical devices. He would be actually killing people. So is that a declaration of war? It's more than a threat, because people would die as a result of cutting off their electricity. So it just means Doug Ford's dangerous rhetoric means that the United States and Donald Trump needs to drill, baby, drill, because we need the independence. We don't need this narrative. Look, they've got a $2 trillion GDP. We've got a $30 trillion GDP. Who's gonna lose in this battle? It's a trade deficit with Canada. They don't really supply us with much of anything, so there's no threat there. I mean, it's a paper tiger.
Great point.
Exactly.
Well, President Trump saying last week tariffs could bring about what he called a, quote, period of transition, and that makes sense. Even though it should take time, it will be ultimately great for the United States. Here's how Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick summed it up over the weekend.
Anybody who bets against Donald Trump, it's like the same people who thought Donald Trump wasn't a winner a year ago. Donald Trump is a winner. He's going to win for the American people. That's just the way it's going to be. There's going to be no recession in America. What there's going to be is global tariffs are going to come down, because President Trump has said, you want to charge us 100%? We're going to charge you 100%. And you know what they say? They say, no, don't charge us 100%. We'll bring ours down. We'll unleash America out to the world, grow our economy in a way we've never grown before.
Brandon, President Trump says he's not looking at the stock market, but I find that hard to believe. He went to the New York Stock Exchange in one of his first days in office. So what's your advice to Americans looking at their 401ks right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's very concerning, and I agree. I think he is looking at the stock market. He's speaking to a group of business leaders at the Business Roundtable today, I think, to assuage some of their concerns about the future of the economy. I think, Trump really needs to be focused on what worked in his last term, and that was deregulation, and that was good tax policy. That's what stimulated the economy. That's what got us booming in 2018 and 2019. Yes, there were some tariffs, but they were on a much smaller scale than what we're talking about today. These massive tariffs, fighting a trade war on multiple fronts all across the globe, I think that's too much disruption for the market, too much disruption for Main Street right now. Focus on good tax policy, making sure that people have enough money in their wallets to pay their bills and to make sure that they can afford their groceries and eggs and so forth today. I think that ought to be the core concern, taking care of America's pocketbooks rather than waging a tariff war all across the globe.
Mitchell, the thing is that even Jamie Dimon, he's come around with regard to saying, okay, you know what? We don't have free and fair trade. And he actually made some comments that sort of like supported what President Trump is doing. But is there a difference between the policy positions from the way it's being played out and executed? Because the market seems to be, one day you're talking about tariffs, the next day or a few days later, you're saying that, okay, it's been postponed. The back and forth, I think that's where most investors and business leaders are kind of like in limbo in terms of their planning and allocating resources and investments, because they don't know where the market and where the economy is going.
Well, look, I think the economy may have a downturn in 2025, but it's going to come back when the policy implementation by the Trump administration actually hits the road. He's only been in office a little bit over a month, so we've got to give his policies some time to work. Now, as far as the hysteria by the media, most of that is noise. because the selling since last year, November of last year, has been the professional investors and CTAs, the commodity trading advisors, the big players. The people who have been buying have been retail, which is the top of the market. Whenever retail comes in a horde, you know that the market's overvalued. Market valuations are ridiculous. This really has very little, in my view, to do with Trump, his tariffs, or anything else. But the market is, the news media market is trying to create a narrative to pump, dump, and blame Trump. But it's not Trump's fault or his administration. You've got to give them a break on it. Valuations were way too high. They still remain high because if you look historically, when you had the dot-com crash in 1999, the NASDAQ dropped from 5,000 below 1,000, right? And it took almost 20 years for it to recapture 5,000. And then in 4 years, it went from, up to a high of over 20,000. So this was on money printing and excess. So, I don't buy the scenario that the tariffs caused the decline in the stock market. I think it was valuations 100% and institutional and CTA selling.
But to your point, the average American doesn't have your knowledge. They're going to just take a simple viewpoint. Okay, Biden left office. Things weren't that great, but things weren't the way they are right now. And like you said, give it time, but people have little patience. But let's say people give Trump an opportunity. But will that actually run out by the midterm? So his policies have to take effect and people have to see the material results by the midterms. If not, this thing can have political ramifications.
Yeah, I think, look, I agree with that. But look, there's in economics, there's what's called policy implementation lag. And it can take anywhere from 6 months to a couple years to hit the markets. And so it doesn't take 45 or 47 days, which is the only time he's been in office. No matter what the rhetoric about that is, these stock markets have been overvalued for the past 4 or 5 years, and we haven't had a meaningful correction in 10 years. So anybody who's buying at the top of the market, I mean, sure, they should be nervous, but they've got to look at it's not all doom and gloom. There are still stocks out there that are undervalued. Look, I'm more of a fixed income guy, but if you look at the Magnificent Seven, the over-reliance on those 7 stocks, they were $20 trillion out of a $50 trillion stock market. So There was too much overweight in these tech stocks relative to the profits that they could ever return. I mean, Tesla was assuming that to sell with the market cap was assuming they were selling 150% of every car sold. So I don't know how that works. If you get 150% of market share, can't get that. So it was clearly overvalued.
Well, we ran out of time here, but I'd say that the president has about 15 months for his policies to be implemented and actually materialize for the benefit of the American people. Otherwise, they're going to go to the polls and possibly vote differently. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully the policies will yield the return. Mitchell Firestein and Brandon Arnold, thank you so much for joining First Edition.